Today, we're going to dig into something that sounds, well, like a paradox. It's a story about how one tiny detail, like the shape of an animal's jaw, can literally dictate the health of an entire ecosystem.
So let's just start with this question. What on earth does a wolf's jaw have to do with the life of a forest? It sounds like a riddle, right? But the answer shows us this incredible, powerful force that shapes our entire world. And to really get it, we have to go back. Way back. Yeah, we're talking millions of years back, to this high-stakes battle that has been raging in nature pretty much forever. You can think of it as the Great Arms Race.
Now, the engine driving this whole race is a concept called co-evolution. It's basically this endless feedback loop. A predator gets a little faster, a little smarter, so its prey has to evolve to get a little better at escaping. And that, in turn, forces the predator to up its game all over again. It just goes on and on for millennia.
And you see this evolutionary one-upmanship happening on both sides of the fence. The predators, they're getting sharper senses, more powerful weapons like claws and jaws, and even complex hunting strategies. But the prey, they are absolutely not just sitting around waiting. They're evolving their own upgrades, things like better hearing, incredible speed, or camouflage that makes them practically invisible. It is a never-ending cycle of move and countermove. And you can see these incredible matchups all across the natural world. Cheetahs evolve for insane bursts of speed, so gazelles evolve for agility and endurance to outlast them. Bats develop what is basically biological sonar, echolocation, so moths actually evolve ears that can hear those ultrasonic pings coming. Some newts become so toxic it's mind-boggling, and guess what? The garter snakes that hunt them evolve a resistance to that exact poison. It's this relentless life-or-death sprint of innovation.
Okay, but to really get to the heart of our paradox, we need to zoom way in, focusing on one crucial piece of the predator's toolkit, its jaw.
For the longest time, scientists just assumed that the #1 thing shaping a carnivore's jaw was its diet. And that makes perfect sense, right? An animal that needs to crush thick bones would probably need a different jaw than one that just tears at soft flesh. But, as it turns out, the real story is way more surprising.
So in 2015, a study took a super deep dive into the jawbones of 57 different large carnivore species. Using these really complex models, kind of like what you're seeing here, they mapped out all the tiny differences in jaw shape, across everything from bears and wolves to lions and hyenas. They were hunting for the real driver of their evolution, and what they found totally flipped the old assumptions on their head. The study's conclusion was a total game changer. For animals that hunt all by themselves, the single biggest factor shaping their jaw wasn't what they ate, it was how they killed. The sheer, unbelievable physical force it takes to bring down powerful, struggling prey single-handedly, that was the master sculptor of their anatomy.
Just let that sink in for a second. If you're a solitary hunter, like a puma or a tiger, your jaw doesn't just have to be strong enough to eat, it has to be strong enough to deliver a killing bite and then hold on to prey that might weigh hundreds of pounds and is fighting for its life. That biomechanical need is a more powerful evolutionary force than anything else. So what we have are these incredibly specialized killing machines, shaped by millions of years of intense evolutionary pressure. But what happens to the world when they disappear? Well, this is where the whole system starts to unravel.
There's a scientific term for this. It's called a trophic cascade. Basically, it means that when you remove a top predator, it's like pulling the wrong block out of a Jenga tower. It doesn't just affect the one piece right below it, it creates this chain reaction that tumbles all the way down the food web, changing absolutely everything about that ecosystem.
The classic example of this is the sea otter. So in a healthy system, you have otters, and they love to eat sea urchins. This keeps the urchin population in check, and that allows these beautiful, vibrant kelp forests to thrive. But when the otters disappear, the urchin population just explodes, they mow down the kelp, creating what's called an urchin barren, a desolate underwater desert. The absence of just one predator creates a completely different world.
And we saw the exact same thing happen on land when wolves were brought back to Yellowstone. The results were just staggering. By keeping the elk population in check, they allowed trees that had been overgrazed for decades to finally recover. By pushing back on coyotes, they helped smaller animal populations, like pronghorn, to rebound. Even their leftover kills became a new, reliable food source for scavengers like bears and eagles. They didn't just change one little thing, they changed everything.
But look, these aren't just isolated stories from Yellowstone or some kelp forest off the Pacific coast. This is a global phenomenon. All around the world, we are creating what you might call empty forests.
This number, it's just shocking.
A major review published in the journal Science found that the world's 31 largest carnivore species now occupy, on average, only 47% of their original historical ranges. Let that sink in. More than half of the area where they once roamed is now empty of them.
And the consequences are both predictable and devastating. Herbivore populations explode, plant communities get destroyed, biodiversity plummets. The loss can even reshape the path of rivers because the trees holding the banks together get eaten away. And this, right here, is the predator's paradox. The very adaptations that make these animals such perfect hunters also make their ecosystems incredibly fragile without them. Their absence leaves this massive void that unravels the whole tapestry.
So we come full circle, right back to where we started. That wolf's jaw? It's more than just a bone. It's a blueprint for a healthy forest. Its very shape tells a story about the immense pressure needed to keep an entire ecosystem in balance. We can very clearly see the costs when that balance is broken. Which leaves us with one last thought to chew on. What then is the true value of a world that is still full?